Queen Rania of Jordan arrives in the U.S. tomorrow, so what better time for CNN's Christian Amanpour on special assignment for 60 Minutes to introduce her to you.
Last year, just before he died, King Hussein of Jordan surprised everyone by changing his designated heir from his brother to his son Abdullah, a career military officer. And as king, Abdullah has surprised everyone by often leaving the palace in disguise to check on his kingdom and moving quickly to enact reform. But the biggest surprise may be King Abdullah's partner, his wife Rania, the mother of their 2 children. She was educated at the American University in Cairo, and in a region where the wives of kings and presidents normally stay way in the background, she does not. Queen Rania is on an important mission. A flying visit to inspect part of this realm for herself and the king. But this is not a queen who's overly attached to the pomp and ceremony of her office.
It's pretty unusual for a queen to be driving herself around on an official engagement.
This is the way I've always done it. There's never been a sense of threat, or we've never worried about safety. I always feel like I'm amongst friends or family here.
الله يسلمك سامحونا هالمرة المرة الجاية إن شاء الله بكون عندنا وقت.
What's he saying to you?
I just want me to drink their coffee.
Oh, they do? Maybe you can have it in the car.
That's what I'm going to do.
An American president could never do this, for instance.
We've never had that kind of distance between the royal family and the people. It's always been this sense of closeness.
And we saw for ourselves just how close Jordan's people can get to their queen. Some of these women simply want to touch her. Others are pushing handwritten petitions at her with their personal appeals for help. It's all part of the Jordanian monarchy's hands-on style of leadership. Is this an important way for you to keep in touch?
Absolutely. By making these kind of visits, by really seeing the situation on the ground, you really can gauge what the situation is in Jordan.
The situation is that Jordan's economy needs a shot in the arm. The people here are well educated, but many desperately need jobs. So the king and queen are concentrating all their energies on pushing through a program of massive economic and educational reforms, hoping to make Jordan the Arab Singapore, the high-tech capital of this region.
Can you really make this country a hub of computer technology, the information highway of the Middle East?
It's going to be a tough battle. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I've grown up throughout my whole career. I wanted to have the best platoon, the best company, the best battalion, the best brigade. Now we're going to have the best country in this part of the world. And I don't see why we can't achieve that.
We realize that many countries in the Middle East are behind in the global economy and they need to catch up. We want to catch up, and we're willing to take some very tough and decisive measures in order to do so.
While the king works on the big picture, Queen Rania, who has a degree in business administration, focuses on the details, like a program of small business loans called microcredits. It helps women set up shop. This photographer, for example, has now successfully captured her own slice of the market, traditional Muslim women who prefer not to be photographed by men.
It's incredible to see with a loan of about $200 how that can transform a person's life. As you can see here, she's independent, she feels empowered, she has more control over her life, and is a decision maker within her own household.
Wherever the Queen goes, she's always asked to help. That pressure comes with the territory.
At times, I miss the days when I could just put my head down on the pillow with nothing to worry about but my own family. Now when I put my head down on the pillow, I think of whether we've got enough rain this season, whether we're making enough economic progress. I think of the woman I met on the street whose son is ill and she doesn't have enough money to treat him. There's no shortage of things to worry about, and I think that's been the drastic change in my life.
Rania once dreamed of being a CEO. She worked at Citibank and Apple Computer in Jordan before Prince Abdullah swept her up into a fairy tale romance.
How did you know that this was the person you wanted to marry?
For me, it was, I know it sounds a bit corny, but love at first sight.
I mean, at the beginning, it was a bit intimidating to think of, meeting a prince and falling in love with a prince. But I think at the end of the day, it was just a boy meets girl kind of story.
But this was no ordinary boy. Abdullah was the oldest son of King Hussein, the legendary monarch who ruled Jordan for almost 50 years. And following local custom, it was King Hussein who popped the question to Rania's father, a Palestinian doctor.
He proposed. He said, "We would like to ask for your daughter's hand," and he was very romantic, and he really was very happy that his son had found the right person.
6 months later, Rania and her prince had a grand royal wedding. Abdullah was not crown prince then, but all that changed when King Hussein returned from what proved to be unsuccessful cancer treatment in the United States.
Those were very, very difficult days for us. We were feeling such a sense of loss. Not only was he a grandfather to my children and a father to my husband and a father-in-law, but he was a friend.
And in his last act of statesmanship, the dying king decided that Prince Abdullah would succeed him.
My husband walked in and told me, "Rania, I think I'm going to be the crown prince." And I just had this 1 hour, I think, of peace, where I just really sat down and thought about it and thought about the change that's about to happen in our lives. It was very awesome at the time.
Jordan went into mourning when King Hussein died last year. It was the end of an era, and shortly afterwards, the mantle of power passed to a new generation, to the young couple who never imagined their country's fate would ever rest in their hands. Pretty soon, Rania's face was splashed all over the covers of celebrity magazines, and the world took notice of Jordan's dashing royal couple. Some even called her the new Princess Diana. At home, it didn't hurt that Rania, like more than half of Jordan's population, is of Palestinian origin.
Given your background, which was one in which you were a normal girl, how does that prepare you for the protocol, for the pomp and circumstance, for the pressure?
I don't think anybody really comes prepared and knowing how to be queen. I wish there were some self-help books on the market to help me with that. But what has made it easy for me is the fact that my family, my husband and his father before him, have been very simple, very easygoing people. And even though you have a lot of this formality, you come back home and it's just a normal family life.
Was a farmer, had a daughter, Bingo was his name.
For Jordan's royal family, this is as normal as things get. 5-year-old Prince Hussein is waiting for his mother to fetch him from school.
For most people, picking up their kids is the norm, but it's not the norm for a queen. Why do you do it?
I want them to feel that I'm just like any other mother, that I'm very involved in their lives, that I care and I know what's going on.
Like every career woman, Queen Rania has to juggle being wife, worker, and mother of 2.
Was he a good boy today?
Yes, he was very sensitive.
Hey, man!
I love their innocence and their playfulness. It just really recharges me, really does. Okay. In a sense, it gives me energy to keep going, you know.
And Rania has found it takes a lot of energy to be queen. Her schedule is a whirlwind of photo ops and public events designed to promote the causes she cares about, causes that in the Middle East are on the cutting edge.
You're very interested in child abuse. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's almost like a taboo subject in this part of the world.
Child abuse as an issue is a taboo subject in most countries of the world. And one thing that I found in common with most of the people that work in this field is that wherever they go, wherever they started their projects, the first reaction of the country was denial. So what we have done in Jordan is to discuss it, to say that, you know, it does happen here and it's okay to talk about it.
Queen Rania does more than just talk. When this project of hers, a child abuse center in Jordan, opens its doors, it'll be the first of its kind in the Arab world.
I think what we've learned in Jordan is that not to sweep problems under the rug.
And you're determined to keep pushing the subject?
Definitely, yes.
And the same with the whole issue of honor killings?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Honor killings are murders. Every year, 20 to 30 women in Jordan, and many more throughout the region, are killed by relatives who say they have dishonored their families by having sex outside marriage. Right now, the law protects the killers.
We are moving on the changing of the legislation in Jordan. We're going to make the laws much harder on people who commit these kinds of crimes.
These demonstrators want the laws changed, but it's a divisive issue, pitting them and the royal family against conservatives who don't want to abolish the old ways.
Touching a woman is a crime, and we cannot accept a woman acting promiscuous in public. If she does, she must be punished. Our laws come to us from the Holy Book, the Quran, and whatever it says, we live by it.
And to demonstrate his devotion to the Quran, the king makes a pilgrimage to Mecca, Islam's holiest site, and so does his queen.
Do you sometimes feel that you have to walk a very clever balance so that you don't offend sort of Islamic sensibilities or traditional sensibilities who are not used to seeing a queen being so visible and so active?
Well, the important thing here is that I don't look at our marriage as a political alliance. It is a marriage at the end of the day. I care very deeply for my husband, and I see myself as playing the role of trying to support him in whatever he's trying to do.
A year ago, when it was your turn to ascend the throne in Jordan, a lot of people thought, oh boy, this young man is not prepared. Who is he? Did they underestimate you?
They don't really know how serious I am. But what they don't realize is, you know, I have children now too. I want a better life for them and my people in general. Time is against us, and we need to move very quickly.
In 1 year, things have moved very quickly here, especially for the 29-year-old woman who never dreamed she would be queen.
Once you were just an anonymous college graduate, really, working in computers at Citibank. Do you ever sit back and say, whoa, what happened? How did this happen to me?
I do, actually. I mean, I look back at those days and I think, you know, I would never have imagined I'd be in this position. In a way, it's just, I'm a strong believer in fate and destiny, and I just think that, you know, I guess this was what was written for me.